Hey, Kiki.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well. How you doing?
Very good. Thank you so much for calling in. Sorry we have some technical difficulties, but you guys had them last weekend, right?
Yes, we did. And I had a couple interviews today that there was technical difficulties. So there must be, I don't know if Mercury's in retrograde or what the hell's going on, but something's going on.
Well, we're gonna chat. We're gonna do this.
Cool.
This drummer is from Chicago and started playing the drums when he was only 2 years old. At the ripe old age of 6, he was performing alongside his brothers Paul and Joel as the Sucherman brothers. He attended the renowned Berklee College of Music, then went back to Chicago, and it all began. He has worked alongside the legendary Brian Wilson, and he has the distinct title of being one of the world's best rock drummers. He just released his debut solo album on his birthday and is a member of a multi-platinum best-selling band. 25-year Styx veteran, Todd Sucherman. Todd.
Hey, Kiki, how are you?
Very good. World and planet. Like those words are associated with you as a drummer. That has to be crazy.
Well, I'm a human being on the planet, so that would make sense, ultimately.
And you're also like one of the world's best rock drummers, Todd. I mean, you can't escape that.
Well, I just try to play well with others.
and that you do, and you do it very well.
Thank you.
Now, you literally came out of the womb playing, right? I mean, you've been playing since you were 2. So is this talent something you literally were just born with from the get-go and you just carried it on?
Well, I think that there is some inherent genetic thing with some rhythm and some musical abilities. And really the greatest card I was ever dealt was being the youngest in a musical family. And my father was a drummer. My mother was an actress, singer who could play piano. And my 2 older brothers, Paul and Joel, respectively, played piano and bass. So it's only natural that I came around and rounded out the rhythm section.
And that was really good. I bet they're happy you did that.
Well, it was a great way to grow up because we would, throw a ball around for a while and then come in and play music. And, besides, of course, playing music, we were always listening to music, and we had a stereo and a record player in just about every room of the house. So there was always something happening somewhere, something new to discover. And it was a remarkable way to grow up. I used to go to friends' houses as a little kid, and I'd walk in and I'd look around and I'd think, hey, where are your instruments? What's the matter with you people? How can you live like this?
So what type of music did you particularly like? I think you listened to everything, right? Every genre was in your home.
That's really true. I mean, my father was a big band jazz drummer, but I also grew up in the era of rock and roll. So I didn't, pose such heavy stigma on different genres of music. I wanted to be able to play as many genres as I could, and I knew that if I wanted to be a working musician, I had to be able to play all styles. I had to be able to read. I had to be able to do gigs, and if someone called me to play a wedding, I could do it, and I could read the book down, and that was going to keep me working as a musician. I never put all my eggs in one basket with a situation of, we're going to get the big record deal and we're going to be rock stars. I never really did that. I wanted to make my way through life without digging holes or flipping burgers, really.
And that's pretty cool because, you ended up in a place that you didn't think you would, I'm thinking.
Yeah, because I really had groomed myself to be a session drummer, which I was for many years, but it was through doing that and having reached a certain level of success doing that led me to working with the band. And when that came about, I had never had the experience of a full-scale giant rock tour with a crew of 18, much less doing it with a band who I saw 3 times as a kid growing up, and I had all their records.
Isn't that crazy for you, though? I mean, we'll get more into that, but that's going to be nuts.
Well, you certainly can't author that. I mean, I can't. Most of the things that have happened to me, or the heroes that I've been able to meet, tour with, play with, or befriend, is absolutely mind-boggling to me.
Now, your parents, did they kind of give you that whole thought process of, listen, you got to spread yourself out, you got to learn different things, or did that come from within you?
That came from within me because I just, and this has largely been sort of fact. Most of my friends that were musicians but went to college and did the straight gig and just to be safe, every single one of them, that's where they ended up. And if you put yourself in, I'm not recommending everybody put themselves in a sink or swim situation, but there was nothing else I ever wanted to do. Even as a kid, I didn't want to be a fireman or an astronaut. This is what I always wanted to do. It's what I always did, and I had to make damn sure that when it came time to doing it, that I had to swim and not sink.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's true. You know, some people, you just get scared and you figure you got to take that one path, the safe path, but you really didn't. So you did go to Berkeley, and that is near us in Boston. You were there for a year. So what did you do in Beantown when you weren't studying? Because there's so much to do there. What was your favorite thing?
Well, I actually have a great story here that always sort of warms my heart. I got a lot of them. The year I had there was just tremendous on so many levels, but I was pretty broke when I was there. And, the way your grandfather would tell stories about the Depression, that's how I felt. Although I always had a bottle of water, cigarettes, and we did have some weed a lot of times there. But
well, thank God.
It was the 80s. But money was incredibly tight, and every now and then I would save up like $4, and I would take the tea to the Union Oyster House, and I would sit and I'd have a bowl of clam chowder, and that would be my dinner, and I would have to do that early, around 4:30, because the practice rooms were snatched up. If you weren't back in time, you didn't have a room to practice, so it was first come, first serve in my dorm. So I would go down there, have a bowl of clam chowder, look around, walk around Faneuil Hall for a moment, then get back to the dorm, grab the drums, and head to the practice room before they were all taken up for the night. So actually, my very first Styx tour in 1996, we had a night off there. Our manager, Charlie Briscoe, was in town and said, "Hey, we're going to have a band dinner. Where should we go have dinner?" And I said, "Well, I'm sure there's a million other restaurants in Boston, of course, but that had a special place in my heart, and I suggested Union Oyster House." So we all went there, and the manager came with the illustrious guest book for us to sign. And I signed my name right next to Mel Torme, and I
oh my gosh,
I had to hold back tears of a pinch me moment, because I used to scrape up literal change in my pocket to go down there and have a friggin' bowl of soup and have that be my dinner. And then here I'm signing the illustrious guest book all these years later. That
is so cool. And the next time I go to the Union Oyster House, I'm going to look at it a different way. Same thing with Faneuil Hall. That is so cool, Todd.
Oh, thank you. It's a pilgrimage. Anytime I'm in Boston, I have to at least stick my head in there or go in and have some oysters and a bowl of soup.
Love it. I love it. So you're done with Berkeley. You head back to Chicago, and you really kicked off as a session drummer there, and everybody wanted you. Everybody wanted a piece of Todd. Now, you were also doing TV jingles at that point, correct?
That was a large part of the session world in Chicago. If you got into the upper echelon of guys that were recording, a lot of that was jingles. The money was great. It was fairly easy. The hard part was breaking into the scene and gaining the trust of the music producers and the other musicians. So reliability, being on time, being prepared, having the right tools for the job. There was a lot involved in maintaining that. And it got to the point where I was probably doing 20 to 30 sessions a month, and I had, a couple different drum sets that were flying around the city by a cartage company that was run by a guy named Keith Marks. And Keith was the guy who handled everyone's gear in town, and he had worked with the guys in Styx in the past. So when they were going to get together to record Lady 95 for the A&M Greatest Hits record, which originally that was on Wooden Nickel, the song Lady, and then there was something about the original sound recording being on an A&M package, blah, blah, blah. So they decided to re-record it. And I guess John Panazzo was in ill health, unavailable to really play the drums. So they called Keith and they said, who should we get? And he recommended me.
Dang. So it's a little different from scraping up that $4 to get that bowl of chowder. Now you're, ghost drumming in Styx.
Yeah, it was in my memory anyway. I was in and out of there 2 hours. Most of it was getting the drum sounds to sort of match that 70s type sound with putting the right amount of tape on the heads of the drums, getting the right amount of woof and pillow sounds of the drums back in those days. And I was in and out of there. Nice to meet you guys. Good luck. Thanks. And off I went. And they phoned me back the following year in February of '96, and I could just tell something was different. Not that they weren't nice the first time, but there was a much more genuine interest in getting to know me and finding out a little bit about me and as a person. Because when you're going to be on the road with someone, there's 22 hours that you're not on stage. So they had to make sure that I wasn't a creep or a weirdo or whatever. But I could tell something was brewing. And
so you knew, like in your heart, you knew?
I knew something was up because they didn't have to take that keen of an interest in me as a session drummer, just kind of coming in playing the song, where normally, you guys happy? All right, cool, thanks.
See ya.
Take care, and goodbye. So I had the feeling something was up, and I've been around the block a couple of times, so in my memory anyway, it was the very next day that James Young phoned me up, seeing if I would be interested in doing the 1996 summer tour, with the caveat that if John Panazzo gets better, the gig is his, which I agreed to, of course.
Right.
But he did not get better.
Yeah.
And I've sort of stuck around for the last 25 years. They never really told me that I have the job. So I've just been kind of hanging around.
Well, maybe you should make them have a formal announcement of some sort. I think that should happen Saturday night, don't you?
Well, we'll see. Except I'm the host. I certainly can't announce it on their behalf.
Why not? You can say, "Listen, I'm part of this band now. Damn it, that's it. I'm in."
Then I can just announce a whole bunch of stuff then. No one's here to stop me except myself.
I say you do it. I say you just go for it. Be crazy, Todd. You just got to do something nuts. But at that time though, even though they're getting to know you, they're saying, "Hey, let's figure this guy out." That was still a weird time for the band, right? Because Tommy, Dennis, and JY, they were kind of doing their own thing, but then they get back together. Here you come along, and then you do the Styx Greatest Hits in '96, right?
Yeah, and it was the Return to Paradise Theater tour in 1996, which was the greatest hits for sure. The thing that was something that I had to tiptoe through it, and I found a little daunting, was replacing a personality that wasn't there. I had never met John Panazzo, but all the accounts of everyone who did said that he was the funniest person they'd ever met. So I equated to, I'm sure that's how Kenny Jones felt following in Keith Moon's footsteps. There's this giant personality that's not there. Musically, I wasn't intimidated at all, and there's no, I was ready for the gig, and so the music I was very comfortable with, and I knew all the songs even before they ever called me. I knew all of them backwards and forwards. There was part of my musical DNA, so to speak.
Yeah.
But socially, being in a room where I was the only person that wasn't on all those A&M records, and Chuck Panazzo, I'm replacing his twin brother.
Yeah.
So, I just had to learn them as people and try to be delicate and, try to keep my mouth shut and do my job if I have something to suggest musically. It was sort of like raising my hand in class a little bit, but they, to their credit, they went out of their way to make me feel very comfortable, and they never told me what to play or what not to play. There was a respect that we had for each other from the get-go that was really sort of unspoken. So I was very thankful that they treated me in that regard and gave me the freedom to feel like I wasn't on probation or on trial or you know what I mean?
Yeah, trial by fire type of thing.
It was to their credit as lovely people that they made me feel welcome.
It's so cool, so cool. But now at that time, Todd, you were like 26, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Correct.
You're in your prime. You're on the road with Styx, and the first tour you go on, you're touring with Kansas. The next year, it's Pat Benatar. Like, were you just going, what is happening right now? How did you deal with all that right off the get-go?
I was just sort of rolling with it, being that I've always been a for-hire freelance musician. I was just making sure that I was always in top condition to play the show, and I wanted to play the show the next night better than I did the night before. And that was my job, was to, not wreck anything, not wreck the tempos. Those guys were consistent, so I had to raise my game and have a certain level of consistency too. And I looked at it very much that there's too much on my plate to start getting, starry-eyed or, wow, I can't believe this is happening to me. There's too many plates spinning, and there's too many things that I need to pay attention to make sure that I'm operating at a peak level. So anytime that I would feel some sort of if I began to ride a useless wave of emotion, I knew that was not helping the music at all. I might be having a quick little moment, but much like windshield wipers work in the rain, I would try to wipe that out in my mind and then get back to focusing on the task at hand, bar by bar, as we're playing.
Get the job done.
Yeah.
And because you did that, you're still there. So...
again, they never told me I have the job. I've just been sort of hanging around. I get an email, and they tell me where to go.
But, at that point, again, you're working now alongside all of these iconic bands, iconic performers. Who was the one or several people that you met that just kind of blew you away and said, whoa, I can't believe I just worked or met so-and-so?
Well, I'm very fortunate that I've had a lot of experiences like that. And we've been on bills with or toured with or done shows with pretty much the radio of my youth.
Yeah.
Also having worked with Brian Wilson and my wife being in Brian's band for 12 years, there's a whole other peripheral family of musicians that I was in for a moment there and then honorarily in after that. And I played on about 5 of Brian's records. And, there's a sort of a royalty that comes with Brian. So,
yeah.
I got to play percussion with Brian when we did, here's one that's even better. I played drums with Brian at Carnegie Hall for Sting's Rainforest benefit in 2008, and then got to be on stage and play with James Taylor, Billy Joel, John Sebastian. It was half Brian's band, and it was half Will Lee and Hiram Bullock, and a horn section from the Letterman Band, Larry Carlton on guitar at Carnegie Hall. I mean, it kind of doesn't get any better than that. Roll credits. That's the end of my life story there. Carnegie Hall.
All right.
Playing God Only Knows in Carnegie Hall with Brian Wilson and Sting will forever be a highlight.
Oh, it's so amazing. I can't even imagine. Like, after it was all over, you must have just turned around and said, what the heck just happened? Did this just happen?
No, again, trying not to screw up. I'm playing with these musicians for the first time in my life and trying to make a very good impression.
Oh, yeah. But after it was over, though, Todd, after it was over, did you wake up and say, did I just do this last night? Was this a thing?
Yes, it's very surreal. But then I had to get on a plane and I had to go do something else. So
back to work, chop.
Yeah, not a lot of time to dwell on that. But moments like this, when someone asks me a question, I can dwell on that for a moment.
And we love you too, because that's just an incredible story that no one can take away from you. No one can tell for you because you lived it.
Well, like I said, I feel very fortunate to have had many incredible memories. I mean, like I remember when we toured with Journey for the first time in 2003, and I love Dean Castronovo, but Steve Smith is both of our heroes.
Yeah.
But I'm standing on the side of the stage with a large 16-ounce Solo Cup cocktail in my hand. And, I remember seeing those guys when I was 10 years old. And that was a very important band for me, and just flashes like that. Being backstage with The Who. There's certain things. I've met Paul McCartney a couple of times, Ringo a couple of times.
It's crazy.
If I stop and think about it, it's a charmed life.
Yeah.
But there's work to be done, and I constantly look ahead and not behind.
But the cool thing is you can kind of think about it right now because you have plenty of time to do that.
More time than usual, but it's funny. I'm still incredibly busy even in these crazy times.
And are you teaching right now virtually? Is that what you're doing?
I'm not. It's basically been, kind of getting this record out and doing press for the record, keeping my chops sharp for whenever life does go back to normal. I think it's going to be a lot longer than any of us want, but still I need to stay in shape. Had life continued in a normal fashion, I would have recorded the next Styx record last month in Nashville. Obviously, that did not happen.
Yeah.
So I want to keep my ideas sharp for when the time comes when it is safe to go back in the water. So to speak.
Absolutely. And I mean, even if it's different, hopefully we're still going to be out there seeing you guys because we all miss it. Oh my gosh, I can't take it.
Yes, no, it's quite a thing.
Can't wait. But anyway, June 29th of 99, your first studio album with Styx, that was their 13th release, Brave New World. That came out. And just a few weeks before that, on June 6th in Orlando, Florida, this was the last show that all of you performed with Dennis DeYoung. So can you tell us about that night and what that was like?
Again, for me, the thing that I remember most about that was two things that had nothing to do with playing with the band. It was either FedEx or UPS lost half the gear that the drum company I was with at that time had sent to me. So
Whoa.
I was spending all the time trying to track down the gear, trying to get things from the drum company, of which they were largely out of, and then after that experience, they were not my drum company anymore.
Yeah.
Calling rental places because everybody was busy with a lot of things that were going on at that time.
Right.
So I was largely out of the picture and was not around. I can't comment on things that were done. Then when we went to perform the show, my in-ear monitors died literally at okay, we're coming back in 8, 7, 6. And I'm looking at the monitor guy, and he's like, no, it's fine. It's your ears. So I had to play 8 songs on national television with absolutely no monitors whatsoever. And all I could hear was the drums. It was like I was playing in, a cathedral by myself.
That's insane. I don't even know how you did that. How did you...
Yeah, I don't know either. It was just full concentration. So it wasn't fun for me. It was absolute terror.
It had to be stressful as anything.
And then I had to be on an airplane at 5:30 the next morning to play a jazz festival at Merriweather Post with a sax player named Steve Cole. So the whole thing was like I was in, and it was just putting out fires with the gear, and then my ears broke. Goodbye, everyone, and then I was on a plane to do another gig. So I have very little memory from that experience other than what I just told you.
Isn't that's crazy? It kind of a defining moment in the band, and it's just you had craziness going on all around you. So there was no.
It wasn't defining for me. It was just putting out fires and then kind of getting on to the next thing. But that's sometimes how it is. What someone might perceive as something.
Yeah.
To another person's perception, it was nothing.
Right. But then a new guy joins the band not too long after that, and the both of you just clicked. So were you part of the decision-making process when Larry got into the band?
Well, I'd like to think that the experience that I'm going to tell you about had something to do with it. When Lawrence opened up 2 shows for us in '96, I really loved what I heard, and I actually asked him for a CD. The first time I ever asked him, like an opening guy that I'd never heard of, for a CD, and I actually took it home and I listened to it, and there are certain songs that I really particularly liked. And I moved to Los Angeles right when that tour ended, and at that point, I wasn't sure what was happening with Styx. We were going to do a record, but as far as that revenue stream had ended, so I was out hustling in a new town, Los Angeles, back then. And there was a music producer I'd worked with in the past who phoned me up and said, "Hey, would you be interested in playing 2 songs at the Princess Diana Memorial Concert at Althorp Palace with David Hasselhoff?"
Oh my!
And I said, sure.
Yeah.
It was a one rehearsal, it was a gig, it was a paycheck, flying over to England,
Wow.
an experience, and play over there. And all the acts played with the BBC orchestra. So, yeah, absolutely, a resounding yes. So I'm over there, and who else is on the bill? Lawrence Gowan.
Come on.
So, I run into him. So the first time I meet him was in either Quebec City or Montreal. Next time I see him, we're in London. And that night at the end of the show, there was a party for all the artists back at Althorp Palace. And we all ended up in the great room after dinner, and there's a piano, and different people started getting up there and playing songs. And it was this giant sing-along. Everyone's got a drink in their hand. And it was a marvelous, wonderful night, literally at a palace. And Lawrence got up there and played a couple songs, and one of the songs he did was "Somebody to Love" by Queen, and he blew the friggin' roof off the place. It was incredible. So as fate would have it, I come back home from this trip. The girl that was doing Tommy Shaw's website at the time was French Canadian, and had suggested Lawrence. And so Tommy and JY had a chat about it, and JY called me and said, "Say, so what do you think of this Canadian fellow, Lawrence Gowan?" And I said, I was just with him last week, and he just absolutely killed it on a Queen song. If he could do that, I think he stands a chance of doing this one, doing this gig. So that's how that worked. And then they called Lawrence, and he came out to Los Angeles, where Tommy and I were living at the time. JY was out there, and it just sort of clicked right from the get-go. And so the first 3 times I ever saw Lawrence was in 3 different countries.
That is just so meant to be. Hello, and he's so perfect as the front man of Styx. You couldn't have chosen a more perfect front man, really.
Well, he's become one of my dearest friends in the world. He's incredibly smart, incredibly zen, very wise. Has an incredible work ethic. We share a similar work ethic. We warm up, and we try to be better every night. So yeah, we just make each other laugh like a couple of idiots. Absolutely cracking up all the time.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you. Do you like to play pranks on him when he's sleeping?
Well, I know that the zombie arms has become sort of a widely known thing.
It's kind of funny though.
Yeah, it's. I know he really hates it,
and that's why you keep doing it.
I think that's what makes it particularly enticing to keep annoying him in that regard.
Well, because you love each other so much, and you get along so well, and you're such great friends that you even tour with him on his solo work as well.
Well, I'm very flattered that he would ask me to do that, because I'm sure with the amount of time we spent together, everyone needs a break every now and then. But he's had some really great drummers play on his solo stuff, most notably Jerry Marotta, who
Wow.
has played on, a couple hundred records we all know, including all the early Peter Gabriel stuff,
Crazy.
Peter Gabriel's Plays Live. So that was a huge seismic shift record for me. He's a very interesting, esoteric, unorthodox drummer rhythmically. So that was a thrill for me to approach that music and try to do my best with that.
Yeah. Now, Tommy Shaw once said that when the show is over, he likes to boot, he's gone, but you're the hanger. So what makes you the guy that likes to hang out and be with everybody? Aren't you? Because I've watched you play time and time again, and it's exhausting to just watch you. So aren't you tired?
Well, not really. It depends on, sometimes if it's the fifth show in a row, I could be a little sore. But the truth of the matter is I just plumb know so many people, and I have so many friends and so many drum industry friends and, friends of the reps for the musical instruments, drums, cymbals, sticks, heads, microphones, drum shops. I've done clinics at, relatives, friends from the old days. So normally it's if we did 20 shows, I will have guests, after show guests at easily 19 of them. It's pretty rare that I don't have guests after a show.
You just have to be the hanging guy. You're just the guy everybody wants to be around.
Well, I don't know about that. Either that or I'm just a victim of my own sweet disposition.
We have to talk about your love story with your beautiful wife, Taylor. We have to talk about that. So she was in Brian's band for, you said, 12 years. How did you two connect?
Well, we actually connected on a gig from the aforementioned saxophone player Steve Cole that I went to play with at Merriweather Post. He was a buddy of mine from Chicago, and we slogged it out in the jazz clubs, playing till 4 o'clock in the morning on a Wednesday night when there's, 10 inches of snow on the ground and it's -6. So he actually got a record deal, and his first record went to number one in the smooth jazz world.
Wow.
And when he put together his homecoming show, his headlining show at the House of Blues, he put together the band he wanted. He hired me and flew me in to do it. And he hired a couple of background singers, and that's where I first met Taylor. That's sort of a long story in and of itself, but right around that time, I was pegged to do Brian Wilson's first ever solo tour. And Brian had bought a house in suburban Chicago that was near the producer that he was working with, a guy named Joe Thomas. And Joe called me one day and he said, "Hey, do you know of any female singers in Chicago that are beautiful and that are really, really great? I mean, I have headshots and tapes here from, singers in LA and New York, but do you know anyone here in Chicago?" And I said, "Well, I just worked with this singer named Taylor Mills." So I recommended Taylor for the gig. She went down and got the gig. And, it was something like maybe 3.5 weeks of rehearsals before the tour started. And by the time the tour started, we said, well, we could save you a hotel room. So that's how the love affair began.
There you go. Very just cut and dry. Like, I love you, and that's it. Let's go.
Yeah, and then we were off to the races, and then about 2 months later, she moved in with me in Los Angeles, and it's 21 years ago.
Dang! So it worked out. I'm glad it worked out for you guys.
So far, pretty good.
Now, Todd, you just released a new record. Congratulations on that. Last Flight Home. You released it on your birthday, and did you know that you have the same birthday of Lou Gramm of Foreigner? Did you know that?
Yes, I do.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, indeed.
Now, I think oh, sorry, go ahead.
And I think Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson has the same birthday as well.
Perfect. Now, you asked your fans and I thought this was a little scary when you did it, to be quite honest. You're like, should I release it now or should I wait? I'm like, what if everybody tells them to wait? If they did, would you have waited, or would you have said, you know what, I'm doing this, now's the time, I have to do it?
If that was the answer, I think I would have heeded that warning.
You would have waited.
Yeah, if everybody tells you they're not going to buy your record, then why defy that audience?
Yeah, true. Yeah, it's kind of true.
I mean, the fact of the matter was that the record was done, mixed, mastered, and manufactured and shipped to my house. And then COVID-19 hit.
Ugh.
And my initial thought and response privately, with my wife, and agreed with me. Well, I can't release a record during a global pandemic and an economic crisis. It's just not the right time.
Yeah.
And I also didn't want to be perceived as some sort of carnival barker on social media, like, hey, buy my record. Here's another video clip of it. Buy the record.
Yeah.
When this is going on. So I scrapped it indefinitely. But then I started having various musical buddies and close confidants say to me, well, you have this, it's done and it's ready to go. Maybe now is the time to release something. Maybe now people have time to sit and listen like never before, or at least since the days of putting on the headphones and holding the LP in your lap.
Yeah.
Maybe now people need musical entertainment. So after hearing that for another week or so, my wife started to change her tune. And I thought, okay, well, I have no infrastructure in place to, I haven't had that part of the website built and, whatnot. So with a conflicted heart, I made that video and I posted it on both my Facebook pages, Instagram, and YouTube, posing the question, would you buy new music right now? Would you even be interested in new music right now? I have this, it's done. Do I wait for brighter days or do I move full steam ahead? And the response was an enthusiastic and overwhelming 99.9. Please release this now.
Yeah.
Full steam ahead. So I thought, okay, well, let's do it. And I moved up the release date even earlier because I didn't know what was going to happen or how gnarly things could get by May 30th, which was the original date.
Oh, okay.
So I figured, well, May 2nd is my birthday. What the hell? Move it up there.
Yeah. Yeah. Happy birthday to me.
Because 51's a little anticlimactic after 50. It's like 51. Hey, who cares? So I gave it at least myself a nice little thing to think about and to work towards, and put myself in overdrive, getting the infrastructure together to be able to handle this and do what needs to be done to make this a successful launch. And the one thing that isn't happening is, there's been a delay on the 180 gram vinyl because the original date was May 30th. And there's been a delay on the manufacturing because it's manufactured in New Jersey and there's been strict stay-at-home ordinances there. So it's looking like sometime in June, the people who ordered the vinyl will get those.
And, I have to say, I've been promoting this since I spoke with you last week. I'm going to interview you, and I've been using the hashtag "and the boy can sing too," because I'm like, your voice is incredible.
Well, thank you very much. It was I'm going to sound like a lifetime. So it was a process of discovery to find it, but it really was. My co-collaborator J.K. Harrison, who was a buddy of mine from the old days, he was the one that believed in me from the get-go. He's been, harassing me to do a record with him for years, and I always blew him off with the notion that, gee, that's really cute that you think I could do this. Thank you, but no thank you. But he was relentless, and I finally gave in, and he just hit me right at a time where I was going to be in Los Angeles for a week with some free time. So I sort of thought, what the hell? We got together, and I want to say it was the second day we got together, we wrote the song Last Flight Home in about a half hour. It was just lightning back and forth, one of those magical nights where, you wish it was always that easy.
Yeah.
And this thing started to materialize, and I thought, well, I'm really intrigued with this, and I'm also scared of this, because I've always been very sheepish and shy about singing. I'm fine in a group, in a background setting, but to step out front, never done that before. And the fact that it scared me, I thought that's where I need to be. If I did some sort of jazz fusion record, that would be maybe a safe move. Let's do something bold. And so this Yellow Brick Road started to materialize in a way, working with JK, and I thought, let me just get out of my own way and see where this leads.
And it led to a great place, because I really do think that everybody needs this now. I think this was the perfect time for you. And we always have to step outside of our comfort zone to make things work, I think. And for you, stepping out from behind the drum set, really, and singing a song, singing several songs, you sound great. And I'm glad you did it. And I can tell everybody else is completely happy that you did this. And it was perfect timing. Absolutely.
Well, it was an incredible musical learning experience for me. And, I've always been very safe and secure behind the drum set with all the wood and metal in my little cage back there. It's a very safe place to be. But to get out from behind the drums, and to sing, it initially it felt, like the cliche dream where you're in front of the class in your underwear. It brought that sort of sense of vulnerability and sheer terror. And the first couple times I played anything for anybody, it was like every second felt like a minute. It was excruciating. But the responses were so overly enthusiastic, it became fun. Seeing people that I've known for years and decades look at me and go, dude, that's you? That discovery process has been really, really enjoyable.
That's cool. Yeah, that's got to be cool for you.
Yes. No, it's been one of the great joys of this whole thing. And it's a whole grand experiment to see if I could do something I didn't know that I could do. I have no aspirations to become a singing celebrity of any kind. Hey, is he going to leave the band? No, I don't. I love my band. That's my gig,
Yeah.
So that's really where it's at. It was just this little side project that I did completely under cover of darkness. My mother didn't know I was doing this record.
Come on. You didn't tell your mom?
Nope.
Who does that, Todd?
Yeah, yours truly.
You're in trouble now.
Well, I didn't know that I was going to go through with it. And if I broadcasted those closest to me, hey, I'm doing my own record, and then in the 11th hour decided to stick my head back in the shell and scrap it, I didn't want to have to live that one down.
Yeah, true. So you did go full steam ahead. You got it done, and it's pretty amazing. Now, Todd, you once said that you got where you did because you're a good guy. You have to be a good guy. Now, you are a good guy with a tremendous amount of talent. What do you think the other piece is that brought you the success that you have today?
Well, I've never declared myself a good guy. If that's my reputation, then that's wonderful. That's for others to decide. But in trying to be a working musician, from the very get-go, there were a few guidelines that I tried to handle my business. One was always being on time, and as a matter of fact, being early to every gig, to every session. That way you're prepared. That's the greatest gift that you could give yourself or the people that are employing you, is to be early and much less on time. Be prepared. Number 2, be prepared for what you're going to do. Number 3, show up with the right tools for the job. I'm not going to show up at a jazz gig with a giant rock drum set, and I'm not going to show up at a rock gig with a little bebop drum set,
Yeah.
You got to have the right tool for the job, and everything's got to be sounding great. Number 4, nail the job. And it's easier to nail the job because you were prepared. If you know the music, or you've done your homework, or if someone gave me 20 songs to learn and we're going to go play these, there you go. And then number 5 is leave everybody happy that you were there. And I always knew that if I handled my business like that one day I'd find myself in a room with Sting or Peter Gabriel or whatnot, and those things happened. That's the way to get there. most people, much less musicians, can't put those 5 elements together.
Yeah. Well, you've done a fabulous job with that. And just one more thing, Styx, wherever you guys play, it seems as if you sell out all the time. What do you think is that thing that keeps fans coming back to see you guys year after year after year?
Well, I from my perspective, from actually seeing and being a part of all the shows, is the level of consistency, the level of professionalism, and the level of just leaving it all on the stage every night. It doesn't matter if it's 106 degrees or we're getting, pelted with freezing rain. It doesn't matter if we're playing in a field in the middle of Nebraska or in a beautiful theater or an arena. The general feeling is the people in Nebraska deserve the same show that the people in Los Angeles get,
Yeah.
So there's that level that's unspoken that I see every time. There's never a time where any one of us phones it in. There's never a time where we walk off the stage and go, what the hell happened tonight? There's never a time where we walk off the stage and we go, we just didn't win over the audience. So that's the amazing thing. I've been in a lot of band projects. I've been in a lot of bands. The level of consistency to rise to a level of greatness with these guys is astonishing to see and be a part of. And, quite truthfully, hey, you could have a cold. Hey, you could, be sore because it's the 5th show in a row. You could be missing your wife and child and whatever. But when I get on stage, I see those guys giving 100%, and I'll be damned, I'm not going to be the guy that's only given 90 that night.
Yeah. And you all, every single performance I have watched, all of you just seem to genuinely like each other. And, we can kind of see if it's a put on or, you know what I'm trying to say, but you guys all genuinely really work well together. And you just give it to the fans. Every time I've seen it, every single time you're there. And it's just so cool.
Well, we generally do, love each other, and we're all, brothers in this. And you'd have to be, because to spend that much time on the road and do as many shows as we do every year, if we didn't, it would be hell for everybody.
Yeah.
So, this unit and our crew, which, most of the crew we've had for years and years and years, it becomes a living organism that becomes another family. It's another extension of your family, and sometimes, present times excluded, I see the road family more than I see my real or nuclear family.
Yeah, you guys work a lot. You've been on the road a lot. So, and we're thankful for that. And we have to say, Todd, you are awesome. Everyone, please go check out Todd's new music. It's fantastic. ToddSucherman.com. Everyone can also watch you host this Saturday night Styx Fix. And all of that info is on the band's Facebook page. And all of us are really, honestly, myself, I'm just putting myself out there. I want to connect with all of you again. I cannot wait. And hopefully the road happens at least next year. I'm hoping. And
I hope so too, Kiki. A lot's got to happen, and we got to make sure that it's not only safe for us and our crew and the local crews, but obviously for those that would attend a show.
Absolutely.
So it might be longer than we want, but I'm quite happy to stay in and stay safe. If this means that we can rock in late 2021 through the foreseeable future. So I'm in no hurry to end anybody's time on Earth at all,
Of course. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Well, Todd, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Kiki. I really, really appreciate it, and I hope all you guys are staying safe. And thanks for what you do.